Good morning and welcome. It's good to see you all, at least by name, as we gather together and prepare for our annual conference. It's my privilege to introduce to you this morning Bishop Grant Hagia.
Well, welcome everyone to our Desert Southwest District Conferences. In my schizophrenic life, they scheduled two events unbeknownst to me back same time. I'm supposed to give welcome to a laity event in Calpac, same time. So I'll be very brief today. I wanted to tell you how well this has been designed. You're in good hands with our district superintendents, our staff, our leadership of the conference. So we're looking forward to a wonderful day today. I did want to give you one reflection, though, today, and that is I've been, in the last month or so, more hopeful for our United Methodist Church than I have been in years.
Where is it?
We've been in the middle of, as you know, a very kind of contentious situation. A conservative faction, middle faction, and of course a progressive faction have been at odds. But recently, I've witnessed around the church a sense of unity, especially for the mainstream United Methodist Church. I really have felt this in Episcopal colleagues in both the United Methodists, but also in other denominations. My Lutheran and Episcopal bishops have reminded me, Grant, there is life after any separation of a denomination. And I got an email from a former retired pastor that I know who's now living in the state of Washington. And he and his wife are attending a Episcopal church because that's closest to them. And he recounted a whole story to me about this church. They had gone through a similar split, if you remember, between conservative and more progressive forces. And he said that particular church was really split. And the former rector took many of the long-standing members, about $100,000, and left to form their own church, a more conservative church. And he said the church was devastated when he came. Morale was really low. But they had an interim rector, and he later became the full rector. And the church really banded together, and it began to thrive, because now the naysayers and those who were giving money that they wanted to control had left. And he said the church, through the years that they went through this, has thrived. They're double their membership now from what they used to be. And he said that there are some key elements of why this is so. One is the culture now is open, and anybody is invited to come, especially LGBTQI people. There's a profound sense of worship centered around, for Episcopal Church, of course, the Eucharist. And he said it's beautifully done every Sunday, 3 services, midweek services. They have a choice of Taizé and other services for other options. Young people are coming. There's a profound sense of spirituality at this church, where people have a chance to learn and grow in Christ. And he said the other very strong sense of this church is its hands-on ministry to the poor and the needy. This is the reason this church is thriving. And it gives us hope, I think, for all of our churches. Once we get through this rocky period in our denomination, there will be life on the other end. And I pray that it'll be a thriving,
Give me that
sense of
message.
wonderful joy that you'll all experience. So thank you for your participation today, and I'm going to turn it over to Jen Lambert.
We were indeed made to thrive. I want to say thank you to those who prepared worship for us this morning and led us through that time together. And I pray that this has prepared us for the work that lies ahead, the business of the annual conference. There's much to discuss, and we want you to be as prepared as you can under these circumstances. So I'm going to invite Dina Reed, our Conference Benefits and Facilities Manager, to share what you need to know to prepare for annual conference this year.
Morning, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. This year, annual conference will be in person and virtually. It's important for you to know that registration will end May 26th. In order to receive your voting credentials, it's really important that you register by May 26th, please. We are going to share a link to the annual conference page on the Desert Southwest website. There it is, and everything that you need to know about annual conference is on that page. All the links to register for annual conference, the hotel links, childcare links, information regarding legislation, it's all there on that page. For those of you who are going to participate in person, conference will be held at the Mesa Convention Center in Building C of the main hall, and we're going to drop a map of that in the chat should you need that. There's also a map on the Mesa Convention Center website should you need that. We've reserved a block of rooms at the Delta Marriott, which is right next to the hotel. If you have not reserved a room yet and you need to, I would highly recommend that you do that soon as well. And again, for those participating in person, lunch will take place each day, Friday and Saturday, in the ballroom of the Delta Marriott. And to enter the ballroom, you will need to show your badge so that they know that you are a participant. If you have food allergies and you have not yet included this information in your registration or you're not sure, please contact me with that right away so that the hotel is prepared for you. Let's see. The memorial service and ordination services will both take place at 7 p.m. at First Mesa UMC, and the church is located about 4 blocks south of the hotel. We are going to offer a shuttle from the convention center. Well, actually, it's from the lobby of the hotel. There's a circular driveway right outside, and we will have a church shuttle bus and take people back and forth if you would like to do that. You can also drive, carpool. First Mesa has plenty of parking. And I remember in 2019, some people chose to walk, so that's also an option. Let's see. The annual conference plenary sessions should end at 4 on both Friday and Saturday, which gives you plenty of time to have dinner prior to attending the services. There is a little coffee shop downstairs in the lobby of the hotel. And in the morning, they serve coffee, drinks, and whatnot, and muffins, and similar to what you would find at Starbucks. In the afternoon and evenings, they have some packaged foods and drinks and whatnot, so you could have a light meal there. The hotel offers room service. There's a sports bar very close to the hotel, just kind of across the street in the parking lot. And for other dining options, I would suggest going to the Delta Marriott's dining webpage, and it lists all kinds of restaurants in the area. And then if you are in need of childcare, that will take place at First Mesa, and you can register through the link that we shared earlier to the annual conference page. And we will provide childcare for infants through 8th graders. But you have to pre-register, so you can't just show up those days. And we will offer all-day options as well as evening service childcare only. So you can take your pick. And then regarding COVID, the hotel and the convention center do not have any restrictions at this time. First Mesa is following the CDC guidelines. Right now, Maricopa County is low. So The CDC suggests keeping up with your vaccinations, being tested if you have symptoms. You're welcome to wear a mask if you feel more comfortable doing so. That's perfectly fine. We will have a nurse on site at annual conference, as we always do, and he will be located in the back of the main hall during annual conference. On-site registration to pick up your name tags will be on Thursday, June 9th from 4 to 6, and Friday from 7 to 9 in the morning in the convention center. And we'll have everything clearly marked so you'll easily be able to find where to register. And then let's see, if you need to reach me for any reason during annual conference, I will be at the registration tables during those times. And then during the conference, I will be in the back of the auditorium, the meeting room. So just come and find me. And then I think we've already shared my contact information. So you're welcome to call, email me, whatever you need, and I will help you out. And I think that's about it for me. And I am going to turn this over to the conference lay leader, Alberta Farnsworth. Thank you.
Thank you, Dina. This year, our laity session will be virtual. In our laity session, we'll look at a variety of sometimes unconventional and very ways to contemplate our mortality and draw closer to God as we discover sacred breaths, contemplating mortality as an act of devotion. Our presenter, Martha Lundgren, is a United Methodist deaconess who responded to a call to provide faithful service to dying persons. Much of her work involves educating people about end-of-life issues, how to complete advance directive documents, and how to make cremation, burial, funeral, and memorial arrangements that are dignified, meaningful, and affordable. We know that we are all mortal. Many of us actively avoid the very thought that just as we were born, one day we will die. But what might happen if we meditated on the thought that our very last breath is as sacred as our very first? Could contemplating our mortality, no matter our age or health, be an act of devotion to the one who breathed life into our very being? Please join us in the laity session on June 8th from 10 till noon, Arizona time. Now I'd like to introduce Melissa, who is the chairman of BOOM.
Thanks, Alberta. Good morning, everyone. I just want to give you a little information about our clergy session this year. We will also be virtual on Wednesday, June the 8th from 10 a.m. to noon. We're doing this on Wednesdays so that those of you traveling to in-person annual conference can have Thursday as your travel day. The Zoom link for that meeting will be sent to all clergy on June 6th, so that's not something you need to pre-register for. We want to let you know that the business of the annual conference, or the BAC, will be emailed out to all of you this coming Monday, May the 16th, for editorial changes only. So as you get that rough draft BAC, we invite you to look through it. And if you do have those editorial changes, you'll want to get them to Dee Dee Arikakath, our registrar, by May 25th, so that we can work on the final draft. I also want to let you know that our orientation to ministry, which is our event for those who might be interested in ordination, happens once a year, and you must do it as a certified candidate. That will take place on Zoom again this year, also on June 8th at 6 p.m. If you know someone who's interested or needs to attend that, please direct them to the conference website so that they can register for that event. We also want to make sure you know you are all invited to ordination. Like pre-COVID, we will have clergy robed and processing in for that ordination service at First Mesa on Saturday at 7. More information will be coming out in a letter in June. And then finally, BOOM wants to share with you all that starting this year and going forward, our gift to all of our retirees every year is that we are going to be starting the Clergy Legacy Scholarship, where each year, in honor of each retiree, BOOM will donate $100 to that scholarship fund, but we'll also invite churches and others who want to honor those retirees to contribute to that. Once that scholarship has reached a good substantial level, it will go to persons who are interested in pursuing ordination in the Methodist Church. So this year we'll start that with our first donations for our retirees and continue on. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me or to Dee Dee, and we'll do our best to answer those for you. I'm going to turn it over to Christina Dillabo, our Director of Communications.
I'm actually going to switch it over to David Wood to talk about voting process.
Hello, I am happy to be here with you today and talk about the voting system. You all should be familiar with the voting system if you've participated in annual conference the last couple years, but we're going to have a quick refresher on how to use that system today. So I'd like to invite all of you to prepare a second device ideally. If you have a cell phone or a tablet and you want to vote on that, you need to open a web browser, and that web browser needs to go to the voting website. We're going to be sharing with you in chat a link that can help you get there if you're going to use the same device you're currently on, but it is helpful to use a separate device. The web address, which needs to go in the address bar, not a search box, is dsac.gntvmedia.com. You will see that there on the screen and can type it into the address bar in a program like Safari, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, or Internet Explorer. Remember to type this into the address bar, not the search box. That will help you get there most quickly. If you aren't sure exactly how to do that, in this Zoom meeting today, if you move your mouse over the screen, there is a chat icon. You can see some announcements there that have been made throughout the day. The last announcement just shared has a blue link. You can click on that blue link in the chat icon, and it will take you to the voting website. So that is the way that you get to the voting website. Once you arrive on the voting website, the first step is to enter a voter ID. Today we're going to be sharing some voter IDs. We're going to start with one shared ID for everyone, and then in the district meetings you will receive a different voter ID, and I'll explain that again after we take a couple practice votes. But you want to start by entering a voter ID. Today we are all going to use just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll share that again, but you enter it in the box where it says voter ID, and then you click that blue submit button. After clicking that blue submit button, you're going to be greeted with a couple key buttons, a load ballot button and a get recognized button, and then you're going to see the voter ID number. That's the one we're all sharing today, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if you've logged in. And then you're going to see a message that says no ballots currently available for your voting class. Until a ballot is opened today by the district superintendents in these district sessions, there is nothing to vote on. Once a ballot is opened, you will click that green load ballot button. Clicking that green load ballot button, when there's something to vote on, will load the ballot that is before you, giving you the options to choose yes or no, and then the option to submit your vote. So today, you will then get a confirmation message that says thank you for your vote, and the submit vote button will remain. We are doing it on the honor system today that you will only submit one time. But for annual conference, when you each will get a unique voter ID, and those will be distributed just prior to annual conference, you will see a different button that will say update vote. You cannot make more than one vote, but you can modify your submission until the time that the bishop closes the ballot, only during annual conference. So this is just a reminder that you will have that ability. If you make a mistake in your choice, you can correct that before the bishop closes the ballot at annual conference time. So right now, I hope you all have loaded the voting website. If you are having trouble getting to that voting website, move your mouse over where you see my face, find the chat icon, or if you're on a tablet or a portable device, click in the corner on 3 dots or 3 stars and look for the word chat. click on the blue link that you see there that starts out https://DSAC. Click on that link and it will help you open a web browser. So I need everyone to go ahead and log in with the shared practice voter ID. That shared practice voter ID is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you have not logged in, please go ahead and log in with that shared voter ID. If this is not going well for you, we want to help you, and our tech support team is standing by to do just that. Our team can be texted or called at the number on your screen right now. So that number is 478-245-4042. That's 478-245-4042. If you need this number later, it is also in the chat here in Zoom for you to find and be able to get a hold of us. We are now ready to take a couple practice votes, so you will be ready for the district conferences coming up here shortly. My first question is about you, and do you love reading? So right now, you all should be on the voting website, that dsAC.gntvmedia.com. You should have entered the test voter ID we're all sharing today. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you should be on the page after clicking submit with that test voter ID where you see the green load ballot button. There is nothing to vote on yet because I have not opened it, but I'm getting ready to do that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and declare this ballot open, and I'd invite all of you to click that green load ballot button. Now you will see there are three options here. There's a yes, a no, and an abstain option. You need to make your choice, and then you need to click that blue submit vote button one time. After you click that button, having made your choice, I want to make sure you notice above that button on the left, there's a dark green box, and then the words, "Thank you for your vote." That is how you know that your submission has gone through and been recorded in our system. So I'm going to walk through those steps one more time as some of you are still working through this. You need to be on the voting website. At this point, if you are not there, come back here where you're watching the words, "Please vote now." Find the chat in Zoom. You need to find the chat icon. You need to open that chat icon, and you need to click on the blue link that's there that starts out HTTPS. Click on that blue link, and it's going to open a web browser. On that web browser, there's a box that says Voter ID. Click on that box and type in the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then click that blue submit button. And because the ballot is open right now, it will load the ballot where you need to make your choice. So click yes, no, or abstain. And then you may have to scroll down if you're on a cell phone, but click that blue submit vote button. Seems like we're working through this pretty well. It looks like most of you have taken the opportunity to submit a practice vote. So I'm going to go ahead and in 10 seconds close this ballot. If this is not going well for you, then go ahead and call our tech support team right now. If we are all busy, please leave us a voicemail and we will call you back shortly. That tech support phone number is on the bottom of your screen. I am going to declare this ballot closed. You also can find that tech support phone number in the chat of this Zoom. If you didn't get it off the screen, you can find it there so you can reach out to our team. Okay, so we have done our first practice vote. We are waiting a minute for the results to be prepared. Once the ballot is closed, you cannot vote anymore. Once a ballot is opened, you are allowed to vote. Once a ballot is closed, you cannot vote anymore. During annual conference, you will each have your own unique voter ID. Today, we are sharing. So let's take a look at our results and see how you all did. So 182 of you voted. 86 were needed for a majority. Yes was 155. No was 16, and 11 of you chose to abstain. Thanks for sharing that with me. My next question is also about you. I'd love to know about you and a pet. Do you have a pet? I'm going to move a little quicker and get ready to open this ballot. So I'm going to declare this ballot open. That means now if you're on the voting webpage, you click that green Load Ballot button. Clicking that green Load Ballot button takes you to the ballot that is open before you. You make your choice, yes, no, or abstain, and then you click Submit Vote, and you look for the confirmation message that says, "Thank you for your vote." I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to work through this voting process. Okay, we are preparing to close this ballot. I'm going to give you just a few more seconds to finish up your submission. And I'll declare this ballot closed. Now we're going to start the tabulation part. We have some results. Let's take a look at those. Turns out that you all predominantly have pets, but only about 2/3 of you. 107 said yes, 58 said no, and 4 chose to abstain. I do wonder if those 4 that chose to abstain might have wondered if a pet peeve would count. That seems to be my favorite comment so far about pets. Does a pet peeve count as a pet? I'll leave that with you today. I appreciate you letting us help you vote during this practice session today. And then as we move forward to annual conference, we will be using this same system, but you will have a unique voter ID. And now I'd like to introduce Randy Bowman, who's going to tell you some more information in this pre-conference session.
Thank you, David. Welcome, everybody. My name is Randy Bowman. I'm the conference treasurer, and I'm going to go through a few of the items that you'll be voting on at annual conference this year. The documents that I'll be referring to can be found at that link that Dina shared with you earlier, the bscumc.org/AC. And if you look for the documents green button, you'll see that. I'm not going to cover the resolutions, that'll be done later, but the various recommendations that you'll be voting on are out there. There are actually 15 in total, but 12 of those are on the consent calendar. Our conference rules do allow us to use a consent calendar to expedite the plenary sessions at annual conference. So that we can deal with matters that are generally more routine and aren't controversial and don't require a lot of conversation historically to be voted on in one group. And so the approval of the consent calendar would approve all of the individual recommendations that are included on that. And there are 12 items on there right now. There are ways that we can have items removed from a consent calendar if enough people feel like they want individual discussion of any of these items. All we need is a vote of 30 or more people saying, I'd like to remove recommendation number 2 of the Conference Council on Finance and Administration and have a full-blown discussion and an individual vote. So whatever's left on the conference consent calendar will be voted on early on Friday morning, and if passed, all of the items on there will be passed. And that just requires a simple majority vote. The 12 items that are on there, I'm not going to go into great detail because you can see them, but I will lift them up for you. If you have any questions on any of them, go take a look at them. Most of these are pretty routine and are ones that if you've been around for a while, have seen every year. There are Cfna, Conference Council on Finance Administration, 3 recommendations, all of the recommendations except for the budget that are on there. They deal with items like the special days and causes and the conference advance and benevolence specials that churches can contribute to through the apportionment remittance system if they want. It includes the exempt level 1 compensation, which is for myself, the 4 district superintendents, director of New and Vital Faith, and the director of Connectional Ministry position. That recommendation this year is the lesser of 6% or the change in conference average compensation that WestPath will provide for us within the next month. So hopefully we'll have it before annual conference. So it's just a formula between those two. There are miscellaneous other ones related to mileage reimbursements that generally aren't very controversial. There are 4 recommendations from the Conference Board of Pension and Health Benefits again this year, just like last year. The first sets the rate at which years of service for clergy who retire with any years of service prior to 1982, the rate at which they get their pension. And we continue to strive to keep that at 1% of the conference average compensation. Second recommendation is for clergy who are retired or receive disability payments, and it allows for up to 100% of those payments to be treated as housing allowance, as long as they can justify that. And that's a necessary one to satisfy IRS. The third pension health benefits recommendation deals with the billing for the pension plan, Clergy Retirement Security Program. Again, this year, it'll be recommended that it be billed at 13% of compensation. And the fourth resolution deals with the billing for health insurance for those clergy and other lay participants that are participate in the conference health insurance program. The billing rates for that this year increased 3.5%, which was amazingly low considering the inflation that we're starting to experience. So those are all out there on the consent calendar. There are 2 conference personnel committee recommendations dealing with exempt salaries other than level 1, which came in the CFA recommendation. Both salaries and wage ranges, so exempt and non-exempt. Both of those are recommending increases in the wage ranges, not the individual compensation to individual employees, but in the wage ranges of 6%, primarily based on the level of inflation this year. There is a recommendation from the Conference Commission on Equitable Compensation that sets the minimum salary cash salary schedule for clergy, full elders, provisional elders, and full-time licensed local pastors. And that is the same as last year, but it's increased, proposed at a 7%. So again, based primarily on the level of inflation. There are 2 rules changes that are out there on the consent calendar this year that are proposed. One comes from the Conference Commission on Communications, slightly amended by the Conference Rules Committee, dealing with the formation of that particular commission and how they operate within the conference. And then the last one is a proposed conference rule change dealing with the definition of sick leave and how it can be used for conference employees. That came from a number of individual conference employees and was reviewed and amended by the Conference Personnel Committee and the Conference Rules Committee. And the end product that all three parties agreed on is out there. Basically, it allows during COVID times for the definition of family members to be broadened to allow for sick time to be used to care for those individuals. So those are the 12 items that are on the consent calendar. If nothing is pulled off, those will be voted on as a group. There are also 3 other items that will be voted on individually. Most on either Friday or Saturday. The first of those is the proposed 2023 conference budget that comes from Cfna. It is the same bottom line budget as last year, so it's a totally flat budget. Some line items increase, some decrease, but the net effect is 0. So I encourage you to take a look at that. That will be presented Friday morning by Scott Whitmire, who's our president of CFNA. And you'll have 24 hours to consider it. The actual vote and discussion will take place on Saturday morning. There is also a recommendation for individual discussion and vote that's coming from the Conference Board of Trustees. It is a recommendation that will allow the trustees to accept an offer for the sale of the conference office building that I speak to you from now, should we receive a minimum offer of $2.5 million. I have to tell you, I think at this point that's unlikely, but the little background and then you'll hear more about it at annual conference, but we received a letter of interest in the property earlier this year, said maybe we could pay $3 million for it from an apartment developer. It would take a long time. Nothing's happening with it right now, but we wanted to allow that possibility in case it wouldn't in the future. So it's significantly higher than what the value of the property as an office building, which is $1.4 million based on a valuation we received just last June. So this would allow us that should somebody be interested in it as a future property for luxury apartments, which is pretty much what surrounds us right now, that we could sell it, and that would allow us to, in this time where we're probably only utilizing half of it and many of us are working remotely, to downsize a little bit and find alternate space at either a local church or other retail office space. Again, nothing is in the works right now. Fairly remote that anything would happen quickly, if at all, but this would at least allow us that opportunity. And the final individual vote that you'll be voting on will be the nominations report, which will be presented to you Friday morning, and you'll vote on it again on Saturday morning. So those are the 15 items, 12 on consent, calendar 3 individually, that you'll be considering. Please go to the conference website, the dscumc.org/AC, and take a look at them. And if you have any questions on any of them in advance, feel free to reach out to me. With that, I think I'm going to turn it back over to Jen Lambert, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the legislation as far as resolutions and Episcopal nominations. So all yours, Jen.
Thanks, Randy. We have 2 resolutions that have been put forward by different groups to be considered for vote at annual conference. The first concerns guns at annual conference, and the second is in regards to Central Conference leadership and the Christmas covenant. You'll want to familiarize yourself with these documents prior to attending annual conference. I'm not going to read them to you. You'll need to look through them. There'll be an opportunity for questions during annual conference plenary sessions as we prepare to vote on those. And so if you have further questions, then they can be addressed during our annual conference plenary sessions. In addition to that information, I want to share with you where we are at this moment with Episcopal nominations. If you were part of our annual conference last year, you know that we as the body voted to approve our standard process for making nominations for the episcopacy at this year's annual conference. We are currently at this time in the Western jurisdiction planning to elect 4 new bishops. However, the Western jurisdiction has suggested some changes to the process for all of the annual conferences in our jurisdiction. There was some news that came out a couple weeks ago, and that came out is on the conference website right now. We, as the Desert Southwest Conference, are working on suggestions from the Western jurisdiction, and we'll be open to a new way of surfacing names during annual conference. I know that sounds like a lot of runaround, but frankly, this is just a moving target for us. And because this is unprecedented times, we haven't done it this way before. So what I do know is that I will be asking for a suspension of the rules regarding our past process for receiving nominations, and we'll be introducing a new process. So if we have more information prior to the beginning of annual conference, that information would be available on the conference website. So I encourage you to, again, go to the conference website, look at those resolutions, look at the information on Episcopal nominations, and we will update you as we are able. Part of this is just simply working on the logistics with our sessions committee, which is responsible for the planning of annual conference, and working with Bishop Hagia. So if you have questions prior to that, you can certainly reach out to me through the conference website, through the conference email, and I'll endeavor to get an answer for you. But in the meantime, if you have questions about anything discussed today that we can answer for you, I'm going to turn it over to Christina Dillabo to now lead us through a time of question and answer.
So some of the other questions that I've received lately about the upcoming annual conference, and I'll read them and then I'll share the answers. And I think Julie's going to maybe help me post links in the chat when I mention them. If you have questions while I'm going through the questions and answers time, please type them in the chat, and I will read your question and do my best to answer it, or ask other persons from our leadership team to respond. So the first question I have is, where do I find the documents that I need to be reading to be prepared for annual conference? All the documents, any information, it's all going to be available on our conference website. The web address is dscumc.org/AC. All right, and the Mesa Convention Center map. So if they didn't attend the pre-conference briefing, they wouldn't have received the link via chat. So that map is also now posted at dscumc.org/AC. If your church is doing a special offering to support the mission project this year for annual conference, Billy Fidlin says, please turn in the information about the mission project totals, because maybe you've already turned in the money to Desert Southwest Conference Treasurer Randy Bowman, but send an email to bfidlin@dscumc.org to report your church's mission project total. How do I change my registration from in-person to online, or online to in-person? How do I do that? So it's depending on your situation, you may have to do something different. There may be a refund that's coming to you, or you may need to pay a little extra. Excuse me. So just contact Lori Davalos, our annual conference registrar, via email. Her email address is ldavalos@dscumc.org, and she will provide the specific instructions for you to do what you need to do. Okay, next question. Our church had a change in delegates to annual conference. How do I do that? Again, contact our annual conference registrar, Lori Davalos, and she'll give you specific instructions for how to handle that. And her email address again is ldavalos, DALDAVALOS @dscumc.org. Oh, is there a deadline for registration? Yes, there is. Technically, the registration deadline is May 26th. And that we have to set a deadline because we need to be able to have time to set those voting credentials for each voting member. So although people will be able to watch the live stream, if it's a voting delegate, so all clergy and those lay members to annual conference, not your lay leader at your church, but the delegates that were selected to represent your church at annual conference, they each need their unique voting ID. So we have May 26th as the deadline for registration to give us enough time to create those unique IDs.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our congregation, our delegation has decided that we are going to do only the virtual. I mean, the what? Anyhow, we were planning to get together at the church and use one screen, and we would all be available on that screen. I did that this morning with Lynn and I. We are both delegates, and my name showed up. Hers did not show up on our screen at all. But if she is using her phone as a voting device, whether her name is shown on the screen or not, the phone, the telephone will still transmit her vote to the, and will there be a problem if we all gather together, use one camera and one screen to watch the conference, and then when votes happen, each one of us will still be able to vote with our cell phone? Is that correct?
That's correct. And thank you so much for bringing that up, because your church might not be the only one that needs to do that. So some things to consider are, if everyone has their cell phone to vote, their vote is going to get recorded. They'll need to be able to type in quickly on their cell phone then. If they have a point of order or anything like that, where they would have to type in the message. We didn't show that during the pre-conference briefing practice, but there was a spot in the voting portal to be able to get recognized. So that's the big deal, is if someone from your church group wants to be recognized, they'll need to do their own get recognized on their phone or laptop, whatever they're using to vote. And it's available in that voting portal. The get recognized button opens up a different form where they type in their own name, I think what church they're from, and whatever. There's a drop-down list where they can choose if they're going to call the question, point of order, personal privilege, whatever it is, and then they can type in a little bit about that. So that's the only thing, is that they do need to be aware of that. The other item is there may be times where we're going to do small group discussions, table discussions. So just like we did breakout rooms for district meetings, your church's connection to Zoom is going to be pushed to a breakout room as well. So that what would be helpful is if you rename that connection. Let's say right now it's Russell Cohen is what we see as your name.
Yes.
So rename it as Willowbrook, and then put the number of how many people are there from Willowbrook, because that's going to help us when we move people to breakout rooms to know that at Willowbrook, there's 5 people in that one connection.
I see. Okay. I'm not sure whose computer we'll use. At this point in time, I'm thinking we'll probably be using Gary's computer, to illuminate the screen. And he will be using his invitation to Zoom to get there. But the computer will be there. And if one of our members has a question, can't they go to that computer and type that in and name
No.
themselves as part of the group?
Kind of. So during annual conference, the chat function is not going to work like a typical Zoom meeting. It's going to be closed where either no chat is available or the only chat that's available is like an IT request. So you can only chat to the host. That might be the only option that we have available. So if a person has a question, so kind of like if you were in person at annual conference,
Yeah.
If you wanted to come to the microphone and ask the bishop a question, you would need to wait to be called on to be recognized by the bishop. So just like that is what happens in the voting portal. You can press the get recognized button, and then you can say you have a question. So you select that drop-down list, and then the bishop's going to call on someone from your church, whoever that typed that in. Technically, you could open up a browser on that same laptop, but now everyone is going to see what that one person is trying to type instead of watching annual conference. So that's why it'd be better to have another computer available so that everyone can keep watching the main computer to watch annual conference and participate. And then that one person that has a question can do that on their phone or another laptop.
Okay, then let me ask another question.
Mhm.
It seems stupid, but the invitation to Zoom will come from the annual conference, correct? Or will it
Yes.
come from Gentiva?
No. So when everybody that registers for the for annual conference had to type in an email address.
Yes.
We're going to use that email address to automatically register everyone into Zoom. So you guys won't need to do anything else. You will start getting an email about the annual conference meeting is about to start. I think you'll get a reminder email a day before and an hour before.
I guess what I was going to say was so that each of our laptops will be recognized. Lynn and I share a laptop. We don't have two. I have a desk unit at home and I have a laptop that's portable. And until all of this stuff started, we had a single email account for both of us. We shared an email account. Now we have our individual accounts because not only this, but other things use that email, well, yeah, the email thing as a personal identifier, where a group identifier doesn't work. They won't allow two people to use the same email address in a lot of places. So we've had to get individual ones. But we still only have one device, and that device is our shared device, I guess you'd call it. I guess what I was saying is, if we could get an invitation from Zoom for the church, then the individual could use their individual device as they wanted to, without it being part of the main screen, unless they are called upon, and then they'd be switched in to make their presentation or whatever, rather than use Gary's laptop or my laptop or somebody else's laptop. If we had a church invitation, we could use that to open the Zoom meeting and watch it, but our individual units would still be available for us alone. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes, it does. I'm following. And so here's, first of all, I'll give you the answer and then I'll explain the problem. What you can do, you actually don't need any invitation from Zoom to watch the annual conference, because we're going to post the live stream on the dscumc.org/AC webpage. So nobody needs a login at all. You just go to that page and you'll be able to watch it. So they could do that for the church's view or computer or whatever. That's what all observers would use. Now, in your instance, your church is gathering the voting members in one area to watch it all together. So only the voting members get login access to the Zoom session, because there may be times where the body of the annual conference needs to vote by raising hands. And so in that instance, if we opened it up to observers to watch as well, they'd be able to vote too. And then that messes it up. So the only way people can do that is if they have their own login, and that's how we can make it kind of closed or secure.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I understand now why we can't do what I was thinking of doing, but that's okay. We'll just use one of our own units, and that'll work. I didn't realize that there would be an actual show of hands at any point, because there used to be a place where you raised your hand on the bottom of the screen here. I don't see that right now. I guess that's, who knows?
Yeah.
Technology changes so fast, I can't keep up with it.
Yes, it does change a little bit. And in the previous years of annual conference via Zoom, we were running a webinar. This year, it's going to be a meeting, just like today's pre-conference briefing. So we won't have the Q&A icon at the bottom available, because that's only available in webinar instead. And really, we have options through that same voting portal. If someone needs tech support, they can ask for help that way. There's the phone number to call for tech support. I think was there an email? No, I don't think there was an email. There might have been, I can't remember. But anyway, so if people need tech support and they're joining us in the Zoom session, they'll be able to use those online methods and calling in to get that support.
All right, well, that answers my question, and I appreciate the help. Thank you.
Great.
Be aware of what we're doing. The Willowbrook group, with the exception of one person who's going to be out of town, so they're going to be working from someplace up in Idaho. But the rest of us are going to be gathered at the church, in the church building someplace. I'm not sure exactly where. We're fighting with Wi-Fi availability and so forth at certain places, but we're going to find a place where we can do it as a group sitting together, and that way we can discuss between ourselves in a way that Zoom by itself doesn't allow you to do. I mean, as we're sitting together, if a proposition comes up and we don't understand it, we can talk among ourselves and help get that straightened out. And if we were sitting in a meeting, we could do that. But individually, I'm sitting at home, everybody else is sitting at, there's no way to do that. So that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So don't forget to rename whatever you use as the main connection for everyone. If you're going to be viewing it together that way, to rename that one connection as Willowbrook and the number of voting members that are there. So you might have observers there with you. You might have a group of 20 people. But if you have 2 voting members that are there, then have it be Willowbrook 2.
Okay, we're not going to, well, at least that hasn't come up yet. As far as I know, we're not going to invite anybody but the delegates, which is all it would be at the end of the conference. So anyhow, okay, thank you for your help, and I appreciate that.
Christina, thank you so much for handling all the questions and providing great answers. And I want to thank all the members of the conference sessions team. They did a great job preparing for this time. and preparing for you when we get together in June. And just, it feels like day after tomorrow. We're prepared now to get ready to go into our district conferences, but as we do, let me close our time with prayer. Will you join me? On this day, we praise you, great creator of life. For on this day, we are reminded of the importance of the ministries of your church. You call us to make disciples of Jesus Christ, disciples that would transform the world into a more grace-filled, loving, and just place for all of your people, for all of creation. As we prepare for the gathering of our churches in June, we ask that you would give to us your wisdom and compassion. Remind us that together we will be able to embody your presence in a way that truly brings about transformation in our communities and in our world. So we ask that you would guide us this day and always, in the name of the one who loves us all and sends us into the world. Amen and amen.